Nothing feels worse than working on an album, working on a song, working on a creative project. You put it out into the world, you release it, and it falls flat. It's not getting the praise that you think it deserves, it's not getting the attention. Nobody's really engaging with it or responding to it in the ways in which you anticipated in your mind, the way in which you planned it. Um, the first inclination that could come up is, man, what's wrong with the music? What's going on with with the creative project? Like, what is it about what I just released that people are not, rocking with? But maybe it's not the music. Maybe it's not what you actually released. I want to take this episode to touch on something else that I think that we overlook, and that's how we market, how we present the music, how we present the product. So I want to use this episode to talk about, why artists' marketing efforts may fall flat and how to fix that. So, for the sake of this conversation, let's define marketing. And this is going to be from a perspective that most of us artists can relate to and understand. It is strategic storytelling to connect with the right fans at the right time. It's intentional and strategic messaging, all working together to engage fans and cultivate a relationship that goes beyond purchasing what you have to offer them in a moment. So it's a storyline, it's intentional, it's messaging that works across all of your channels in which you communicate with fans to build and nurture that relationship. It's one comprehensive message that tells a story that reaches your fans exactly where they are at the right time. So what what is it marketing? Like what's not marketing? So one thing marketing is it's not posting every day constantly, like just posting for the sake of posting. That's not marketing. Um the reason why I want to say that and lead with that is because that's what I think culture has taught us. I think that that's what we've learned to be true is that if you want to get yourself out there, especially with social media, you got to post. You got to post, 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 post. But what if you're posting and there's no strategy behind it? There's no intention. There's no in, there's just no intent. So you're posting unto what? What are you trying to achieve? What are you actually trying to receive from posting content constantly without any direction? And then it's also not a constant call to actions. It's not constantly asking people to do this, purchase this, buy this ticket, meet me there. And the reason why I say that is if marketing is storytelling and it's nurturing the relationship, let's contrast this to dating. If you just met someone and you asked them right off the bat, marry me, that would be a little weird, right? Like to just go out and ask somebody to marry you. That's not how relationship works. Relationship, it takes time to build. Trust takes time to earn. You have to take time to really understand what's working, what's not working, the nuances of the relationship. And then you get to the point where a person feels comfortable enough, they feel secure enough to actually take action and buy something that you have to offer because the relationship has been built, the foundation has been set, and now they feel comfortable, supporting you in that regard. And then it's not a one-way street. So it's not you getting what you want all the time and fans get nothing in return outside of what they bought. So you don't want to position yourself to always be selling and never serving. So think about it this way. Like, what value are you adding to fans just on a consistent basis? Like, what giveaways do you have? What perks do you have? What discounts are you offering people? Giving people the incentive to feel seen and to feel like you actually care about them, right? Where you're actually adding value to them and you're giving them something that they can benefit from without them always having to depart, with resources or finances in order to get it. Like just, it's just the natural order of making a relationship feel safe and heard and seen, where you're not always extracting from it. You're not always taking from it, but you're actually sowing into it. and meeting people where they are. So marketing is essential for artists to understand just at its purest form, because you're able to control the narrative and develop the type of connection you desire to have between you and your fans. Marketing and correct marketing, from yourself as an artist to a fan, you can start to develop relationships that feels personal and authentic. You can start to evoke the emotion and speak the language of your fan. You can start to develop the soundtrack to someone's life. You start to have a shared identity and start to build connection together, with the correct and the right type of marketing. That's ultimately what you want, because music, it transcends language. It touches people at the heart, the soul, the emotional level, the spiritual level. So you want to be able to start to think about marketing as incorporating yourself into the art, incorporating a larger message or a larger theme into the connection that you want to have with the fan, and not simply something to get people to buy a product or service over time. And then what this does is, even when you begin to position yourself to sell something or offer something to a fan, is it creates better product positioning, you know, because at that point fans are they're ready to support you. They're ready to spend money with you. They're ready to engage what you have to offer. But that's because the relationship has been nurtured, it's been cultivated. You've shown that you've cared, and you show that you respect them enough to sow into them without always seeking to extract something in return. So if you're investing in building a fan base, and you're investing without the correct understanding or perspective on what marketing truly is, this is what you run the risk of operating in. And this is some of the pain points that I've experienced, and I'm sure that other artists around the world have experienced as well. So one thing that happens is, when you don't get marketing right, you end up investing in the wrong audience. You typically start marketing to who you think is listening versus who actually is listening. So many independent artists lack data driven targeting, leading them to invest in idealized fan bases, not the one that's actually engaging or converting them into a fan. So there's a gap between the assumed audience demographics and what the actual analytics are saying. So if you don't spend time to really get marketing right, that's the danger you run into. You think you know who your fan are, but you actually don't, because there's data and analytics that shows and could lead you into the right direction to for you to have a better understanding of who's actually listening. And then there's also something that most artists tend to do, is they start to develop platform dependency, relying on one channel. Typically, you see this a lot in social media, where social media is the dominant marketing channel without any aim, vision, or intention. So the focus becomes on posting, and that puts you in a position where you risk burning out, and it diminishes the focus on the actual music itself and the message you're trying to portray. And don't get it wrong, social media is a powerful tool to connect with fans. But the pressure to constantly produce viral content is not an effective strategy. And it's unrealistic, and it's emotionally taxing, where you're trying to find the next biggest viral hit, the next biggest move, as a way to be able to connect with fans and call that marketing, and think that that's what's going to get you to the next level. And then there's research from Berkeley that shows that artists and managers report constant anxiety to try to create viral content with the intention to try to connect with new fans and try to nurture the relationship with fans that already exist. So just think about the stress that puts you under as an artist to try to constantly create that next viral hit. And even when you do get that viral hit or that viral moment, without a strategy in place, or without the understanding of what the marketing is actually doing, and the intention that you have in place to be able to cultivate and build a relationship with fans, it's actually going to be more of a weightier issue than something that benefits you, because now you put yourself in a position where people want you to do that exact same thing over and over and over again, the thing that got you viral, instead of the real goal, which is to nurture and build a direct to fan relationship with your fans. And then what incorrect marketing does in the end is it leads to burnout and self-doubt. So you start to create, with this perspective in mind, you start to have a perpetual cycle of promotion without meaningful payoff. And again, that leads to exhaustion and it slows down your creative energy. So when you find yourself posting for posting's sake, throwing spaghetti at the wall, quote unquote, trying to find something to stick, and it doesn't, you end up burned out. You end up frustrated. You end up saying to yourself, in the recesses of your mind, this is not working. Is it going to work this time? It didn't work last time. And then now you're looking at yourself and you're questioning yourself and your ability as an artist, because you're trying to find the next moment. You're just trying to be in this cycle of posting and posting, and it's not yielding the results that you think you want from it. And then you just get frustrated in the end. So now that we understand what marketing is, we understand what marketing is not, we understand why it's essential, and now we understand the pain points of incorrect marketing. I want to talk about what we can actually do practically. What strategies can we put in place to be able to market effectively and to start to really reach the people that are gravitating towards us and the people that are really into what we have to offer, and reach the people, in a specific way, in an intentional way. So the first thing you have to do is you have to name and know your audience. So you don't want to end up wasting resources and time marketing to a dream fan or an idealized fan. You want to identify and know who's actually listening to your music. So one of the first steps we need to do is we need to review the analytics. We need to look at the website analytics, the streaming analytics, the social media analytics. We need to actually see who's engaging. What is their age? And speaking more into demographics now, what is their age? What is their gender? Where are they located? Like, get very specific about who this person is. What are the psychographics? What are their interests? What are they into? What are their personal habits? Where do they spend their most time, online or in person? You want to get very specific about who this individual is. Because with that being said, now you can create a real fan avatar. And that is going to be based on data and not based on assumptions. And then in order to test this, once you have a fan avatar, and then once you have an accurate understanding of who's actually listening, you want to test small paid campaigns. I'm just going to use this for example. If you have Instagram, you want to have specific boost posts. You just want to put some type of resource behind it, some type of marketing budget behind it, and just test it out, with the intention of seeing if it's sticking with people, if it's creating engagement, if people are responding to that post based on that target audience that you've now identified. And then at that point, you want to evaluate things like shares, likes, engagement, comments, just to get a feeling if you're reaching the right people at the right time. And then you want to navigate multiple fan touch points. So you want to no longer rely on one platform, because that leaves you vulnerable to growth. And now you're at the mercy of the algorithm, which can change at any time. So you want to think about the TikTok ban, right? Early 2025, right? So imagine if I had my audience on TikTok. It was only on TikTok, nowhere else. And I constantly relied on that particular place. And then it was banned. Now my entire business is out of the window. My entire brand is out of the window. So you want to start to pick and invest in relevant channels that's tied to your target audience. And then you want to be able to start thinking about, how do they communicate? How do they engage? And then you want to diversify how you market to them. So for example, If you have an older audience who loves hip hop, golden era hip hop, that likes conversation, that likes breakdowns around the songs, that are really into the lyrical content, you might want to focus on YouTube and developing, longer form content. That way that you can use that particular platform to cultivate that relationship and give them the type of interaction and communication they want. If you have a younger fan base, more Gen Z, people that, are listening to music, but they're on the fly. They kind of consume music in short form. You want to focus on short form content. You want to be able to catch them right away, hit them exactly where they are, and to be able to grab their attention, and then you want to start to develop and cultivate and craft your content with that intention in mind. And then once you've picked out and invested in the relevant channels, you want to build out a structured content plan that cross promotes between all of these channels. So you want to make sure the content plan is directly tied to the overall goals that you're seeking to achieve as an artist. So you can evaluate and determine the best way to structure and design your content plan. So what is elements of a content plan? Again, we've already identified that marketing is not just posting content over and over again. Again, going back to the first point, you want to decide the channels of communication. Is it going to be YouTube, Instagram, email newsletter, TikTok? What form of communication or what channels of communication of top line marketing you're going to use to be able to build awareness around your brand? And then you want to focus on the frequency of these posts. Like, how often do you want to communicate with them? And think about the form of communication, the frequency of it that's relevant to their lifestyle, who they are, and who the target audience is. Some people may not need content every day, all day, 24/7 if you have an older fan base. But if you have a younger fan base, you may want to think about a content strategy where you're in constant communication, and when you have different touch points where they can see you through various moments, over time. And then you want to tailor the style of content to the audience that you've identified. So again, is it long form content, short form, stories, carousels? What color palettes are you using? All of this goes into the decision-making process for the style of content that you're going to create for the audience it's intended to serve. And then you want to nurture and design content batches. So again, constantly chasing trends and tactics and methods that don't align with your brand, your personality, your true way of life, that creates internal frustration, artist fatigue, and burnout. So you want to identify, 3 to 5 core content pillars for your content plan. So are we going to focus on behind the scenes content? Are we going to focus on storytelling experiences? Are we going to spotlight our fans? Are we going to, make room to have real-time commentary, cultural commentary on things that are happening in real time? What is the actual form of content stylistically and in terms of the messaging that you're actually going to use? And then you want to batch create. And this is very important because developing content is time consuming. If anybody on this channel knows, if you're an artist, developing content takes time. It's not just posting it. It's thinking about it. It's the captions. It's the hashtags. It's the right angle, what I'm posting. All of these things go into play. So it can take up a significant amount of time. So if you know that, you want to batch create content in advance so you're not stuck trying to create content in real time. So you want to pick a date in a month to develop a month's worth minimum of predetermined content. So if you got an album coming out, if you have a show coming up, if you have a tour, if you have like major announcements in place for your creative practice, you want to be able to design that content now. Already get it done in advance and put it on your content calendar and a posting schedule. That way that you don't have to think about it, you don't have to put too much thought into it. You can simply streamline it and post it and schedule those posts as you need to. And then with some content, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You can reuse and remix old high performing content for new audiences. Don't always feel like you have to start from scratch. We have this thing that we feel when we post something, we think that everybody in the world has seen it, everybody has came in contact with it, so we get skeptical about reusing it again. But let me tell you, everybody has not seen it. Everybody does not know about that piece of content. And if it resonated well with your initial audience, the audience that you've clearly defined, chances are if you reuse it, remix it, and use it again with a strategy tied to it, whether it's you're constantly trying to create brand awareness, or if you're trying to position a product, whatever the case may be, that content can still perform well. Don't get caught up in the fact that you posted it once, that you no longer have the ability to post it again. You can reuse it and remix it as you need to. And then lastly, you want to nourish and convert, just don't promote. So again, you want to promote your music with intention, with the intention of deepening the fan relationship, not simply to seek and receive a transaction of likes, comments, shares, and money. You want to think about offloading your fan base from social media and from these touch points that can be controlled by another business or an algorithm. You want to start to think about your own lists and cultivate your own way of communicating with fans. So the important thing about that is data is quote unquote recession proof to the algorithm shifts. And it keeps you to be able to have the ability to reach the right people organically. Because once you have the data and it's up to date, you have a direct form of contact to build and nurture with your fans directly. So that's one step. As you're beginning to have this direct touch point, again, you want to develop a recurring community space. What do I mean by that? You want to have a space where you could develop a ecosystem with fans where you can share exclusive updates, unreleased songs, maybe personal stories or insights to songs. You want to have a place where you can control the conversation, control the narrative, and you can place content, for example, behind a paywall on your website to be able to monetize that content as well. I think the important thing about that is, again, it's about deepening the relationship, because if I have access to you as an artist that is not top line, that everybody doesn't have access to, and these things that bring me more into a relationship with you, have a better understanding of who I am as a fan, if I'm also cultivating a community with other fans, it's going to be something worthwhile and something that a fan would be willing to invest in. And then whatever platform you use, you want to make sure that it has the infrastructure to nurture that community. So I mentioned this in a previous episode, but there is a website out there called Even, where they talk about the windowing concept and being able to develop these different touch points or these different experiences that you can have with fans that go alongside the album coming out or before it reaches the public. So again, the platform has the infrastructure, it has the technology, and it has every tool that you need to be able to cultivate and build that community. And that's just one example. And then you want to begin to engage in two-way interactions with your audience. So you want to get them involved. You want to get them in conversation about your music, about the topics, the themes that you have in place that are centered around your music. You can do this with, fan Q&As, live sessions, polls, you know, those type of marketing efforts, because the ultimate goal is you want to see who's engaging. You want to see who's watching. You want to see who's participating. And that just gives you more information for you to be able to understand who your true fan is. And then within your marketing strategy, you want to make sure that you develop within your strategy reasons for fans to be able to share your work with their friends. So the goal is you want to start to evangelize your fans. You want to evangelize them by the way of merch discounts, perks, personalizing the experience so they feel compelled to share these experiences with someone else. And that's what tends to happen. Somebody, a fan, they receive something that nobody knew about. They received something that was unique to them. And what do? They talk to their community. They talk to their friends. They talk to their tribe. And if you have a fan that are friends with other people within their tribe, chances are they are probably in lockstep with them mentally and within the same mindset as well. So their friends may also be your fans too. So when they become, evangelists for what you do and for what you create, and they start talking to their community, that's when you start bringing people into the fold via word of mouth, and that's what continues to denote relationship and starts to build that connection. So hey, we got to get called into action, man. I want you to begin to see marketing as a part of your art. Integrate yourself into it. Let it be the engine that drives your story so you can help to gravitate towards the right fans and to give your brand and everybody that's interested in what you do a platform to engage. You want to utilize this framework one section at a time. So you can track the progress and you can see how effective the strategies are. Audit what's working, see what needs improvement, and rework the steps provided. So remember, marketing without a strategy is it's hoping, it's wishing, and it's trying to get lucky. You don't want to do that. You want to be intentional. You want to make sure that it's practical. You want to be strategic, and you want to market with purpose so you can reach the right audience. Because again, you want to be able to spend time with the people that are into what you are producing. You want to be able to find your tribe. You want to be able to know who they are so you can build and grow together. It's about building and nurturing relationships. It's not about transactions. So again, if you want this framework, I'm actually going to have it uh, in a link in the description down in the bio, so you can be able to take this artist reset marketing map, and you can be able to take these practical steps and apply it to your practice to be able to reset and start marketing to the correct fans and the people that are actually listening to you, and not the people who we think that are listening to us. So again, I really hope this episode helped. My goal and objective here is to be able to have you as an artist reset and start to know who's actually listening to you. Get rid of the marketing tactics and strategies that's not working so you can start being in alignment with the people that's actually listening to you and is waiting for the music that you have. Remember, it's not always the music. Sometimes we just may need to tweak the strategy, find the right people, and we'll find the fans that we want and the people that are looking for us that find us. Again, if this episode helped you, share it with someone else. I'm Neak. Thank you for watching. Be blessed.